Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Wow, they really are bright lights. I've heard everybody else say that. But yeah, so I'm here to give you a 5-minute talk about the future of fibre. My second job as a tourist advisor for the city of Stockholm, I can tell you that this is how it looks all the time. Not really, but always a clicker. But yes, it's a beautiful place to come and see. So if you want to come and see me afterwards. I must admit, I took almost a day on this slide because I went down a rabbit hole. So there's a link at the bottom for anybody else who wants to go down the rabbit hole on the history of fibre. Similar to our friends from Smartoptics, there's a little bit of a ancient history in here. So fibre transmission first demonstrated in 1965. I could talk about this all day, so I'm going to try and condense it. The first generation of real technology was 850 nanometer, which we still use on multi-mode fibre today. A massive 9-kilometer link running at 140 megabits a second. Feel the speed. Second generation, 1310, still very familiar to us. A big commercial network in Canada, 3,000 kilometers. Not carrying a lot of traffic, though. Then we start to get more towards what we think about today. 1991, most of you were born, I think, by that point. Third generation, 1550 nanometers, running a massive 565 megabits per second across the Atlantic, TAT9. Yes, I can see somebody cheering in the audience there. And then in 1996, that's when optical networking, as we kind of know it today, in terms of fibre, was born. Multi-wavelength, WDM, Sienna, you may have heard of them. They did the 1600 multi-wave system, and a lot of people made and lost a lot of money on optical networking in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years in there. It was a big boom, and then there was a big bust. You'll probably be familiar with that. And that really is kind of where we got to with fibre itself. So you've got multi-mode fibre. Doesn't go very far, but it's nice and cheap to run. You don't need lasers, you can use LEDs. Then you've got single mode fibre, which is most of which is in the ground across the UK, national networks, single mode fibre, mostly 1550 and WDM. And that's kind of where we've been running. I actually saw an interview with Andrew Lord from BT, who said that basically up until very recently, we've been stuck with the same fibre for like 30 years. And everybody in this room is familiar with fibre to the home. There was a time when everything was copper. Now, fibre's coming to the home, and it's a 150, 100-year investment, but it will get replaced. And what will replace it is hollow core fibre. So hollow core fibre is still glass, but in fibre, the light goes through glass. That slows it down. Hollow core fibre, it goes through a gas. Could be air. Air's nice and easy. There's plenty of it around. Also, it means that if you've got a hole, you're just going to get more air. It doesn't make much difference. But light travels a lot faster in air than it does in glass. The initial push for hollow core fibre was that meant lower latency. People who do algorithmic trading love to get rid of latency. Some people will literally drive a fibre in a straight line to save a couple of kilometers because it helps their algorithmic trading bots do trading much faster. The other thing it's done, which it didn't do initially, was actually reducing the attenuation. Early hollow core fibre had very high attenuation, not very good. Now, the technology's advanced so much that actually we're seeing reports from OFC of 0.05 dB per kilometer. Standard 652, 0.25 dB per kilometer, that's 20% the attenuation, so it's 5 times better than current standard 652 single mode fibre. The kings of this, mostly at the moment, are actually British. Most of the research was done in Southampton University. A certain company called, what are they called? Microsoft have bought the company that did that. So they've got a big research facility down there. I actually bumped into them in a restaurant in Stockholm, Viking-themed restaurant. I would thoroughly recommend it if you fancy a Viking experience. And so they are doing fabulous work here. Now, you remember the timeline from standard fiber. We're still in the early days of hollow core fiber. So why isn't it everywhere? Well, there are a few challenges, similar to the data centers in space thing. You've got to scale this thing. Making 20 meters of this stuff, totally doable. Making 200 kilometers, a lot harder. You know, we've got fabs all over the world making fiber today. Being able to do that with hollow core is going to take us a while. Also, it's not as cheap as 652. You've got to put a lot more money in to get this today. But again, as we scale, costs come down, everything's get better. Splicing is harder. Got to line things up, but we can solve that. OTDR as well. OTDR is designed for fiber, as we know it today. As the technologies evolved, so these are all hollow core fibers. So you've got the very first ones from 2002 to the relatively new ones in 2020. You can see lots of different configurations they've tried out to improve the performance. And you can see it's gone from 13 dB per kilometer to 0.28, and now we're at 0.05. So lots of smart people are doing the research, making this better, solving the problems, very much like data centers in space, and they're coming up with the solutions. So some links here for you. Research from the University of Southampton, talking about how to make this stuff, how to make it better, how to make it easier. Work from Furukawa and Litera about splicing. Again, not the only ones doing this, but they're one of the ones doing this. And then from ECOC last year, Exfo have launched a hollow core fiber OTDR tester. So when we're all sitting here, well, some of us, in 20 years, talking about the next fiber to the home revolution, it'll be hollow core fiber. Obviously, it won't start there. It never does. It starts in the core. So some people, BT have got some links to this. Colt, I believe, we've got some links of hollow core fiber, are deploying it already. It'll scale. It'll fill out the core of the network, and then it'll move out to the edge. But that is the future of fiber. And this is also Stockholm.
Colin's having to get his steps in today.
Cheers, Steve Wright. I think one of the big things that we need to say about hollow core is what it does to the data center sector. So
Yes.
if you look at the hyperscalers, using hollow core increases the radius by about 1.5 times about their site selection, which is about 2.25 times the space they can go for in a region. So when we look at something like Slough and West London right now, obviously that's constrained. Using hollow core, they've been able to, one specific hyperscale provider is now in Didcot, Swindon, and I forget, Bracknell or Camberley or somewhere, using a hollow core ring.
Right.
They previously couldn't even consider that. So it then expands the regions that can be utilized for data centers.
Yeah, taking advantage of the reduced latency and the reduced losses. Absolutely.
Hi there, Simon Lockhart.
Hi, Simon.
What's the implication for optics, SFPs and things for hollow core fiber? Can you just use it with the regular SFP, or are we going to need a different generation of SFP to be able to drive it?
At the moment, you have an adaptation at the end, right? So you go from standard to this. Now, I don't believe that's necessarily the end game. It feels, just intrinsically like with a new fiber, there should be a new way of driving it that is more efficient.
Yeah, a bit like mode conditioning patch.
Absolutely.
Course,
yeah. Yes.
Good.
So I don't think we're there yet, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers.